No one wanted the ruined cabin, broken windows, rotting walls, and a price tag of just $90. But when a struggling Marine and his loyal K-9 took a chance and bought it, they uncovered a hidden secret beneath the floorboards. Treasure worth $9 million, lost for generations. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. After years of service, Jake, a former Marine, returned home with little more than his loyal K-9 Ranger by his side. Civilian life wasn't easy. Odd jobs barely paid the bills, and nights often ended in a cramped trailer with more silence than comfort. The scars of war weighed heavily, but the bond with Ranger kept him grounded. Together, they survived on discipline, trust, and hope for a fresh start. Yet opportunities felt slim. Jake longed for stability, a place he could truly call home. He had no idea fate would soon lead him to a cabin worth millions. One evening, while scrolling through the classifieds on his battered phone, Jake came across a peculiar listing. Abandoned cabin, $90. As is, the word seemed almost like a joke. Who would sell property for less than the price of a dinner? Curious, he asked around town. Locals chuckled at the mention of the place. Some called it haunted, others swore it was cursed. "That cabin's nothing but trouble," an old shopkeeper warned. "It's been rotting away in the woods for decades. Not worth a dime." Most shook their heads, insisting it was worthless. But Jake wasn't deterred. To him, $90 meant possibility, a sliver of hope. A place, no matter how broken, where he and Ranger could finally belong. With determination in his eyes, he signed the papers. The cabin might have been forgotten by the world, but it was about to change his life forever. The dirt road twisted deeper into the forest until Jake finally spotted it, the cabin. Overgrown vines clung to the roof like a suffocating blanket, and broken shutters dangled loosely from their hinges. Moss covered the wooden walls, giving it the eerie look of a place swallowed by time. Jake parked his beat-up truck and stepped out, Ranger leaping down beside him. The dog's ears perked, nose twitching as he sniffed the damp air. Jake took a slow breath, studying the sagging structure. "Well, buddy," he muttered, "home. Sweet home." The front steps groaned beneath his boots, nearly collapsing under his weight. Inside, sunlight streamed through shattered windows, casting streaks of gold across dust-covered floors. Cobwebs draped the corners, and the air smelled of rot and mildew. Still, something about the place felt strangely inviting, as if it was waiting for someone to bring it back to life. Ranger trotted ahead, tail wagging but then pausing at a spot near the center of the room. His fur bristled slightly, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Jake frowned. The cabin might have looked ruined, but Ranger seemed to sense something more, something hidden beneath the decay. As Jake explored further, he noticed details that didn't quite fit. Strange markings were carved into the wooden beams, symbols he didn't recognize, worn smooth by time. In the kitchen, he found a cabinet that didn't match the others, its back panel slightly warped as if concealing something. Ranger, however, was more restless than ever. The dog pawed at the floorboards, near the center of the living room, barking sharply and refusing to leave the spot. Dust swirled with each strike of his claws, revealing faint seams between the planks. Jake crouched, pressing his hand against the wood. It felt hollow, a faint echo responding to his knock. His heart quickened. This wasn't just rot or damage, it was intentional. Someone had hidden something here long ago. The cabin's mystery was no longer rumor, it was real, and Ranger had just uncovered the first sign of it. Jake grabbed a rusted crowbar from his truck and returned to the living room, where Ranger still hovered, growling at the floor. With a few heavy strikes, the boards cracked, splinters flying as the hollow beneath was revealed. Dust billowed up, and in the center lay a square outline, an old trapdoor. His pulse quickened. The hinges groaned when he pried it open, releasing a musty draft that smelled of age and secrecy. Ranger barked once, tail wagging nervously, as if urging him forward. Jake shone his flashlight into the darkness and froze. Stacked neatly inside the hidden compartment were several large military chests, their metal edges corroded but still intact. Cobwebs stretched across them like shrouds, dust thick enough to suggest decades, maybe longer, had passed since anyone touched them. Jake's hands trembled as he reached for the first chest, its weight surprising him. The padlock was old, rusted, but still firm. Whatever was inside had been sealed away for a reason. He sat back on his heels, staring at the mysterious crates. Ranger whined softly, his nose pressed toward the opening. Whatever secrets the ruined cabin held, Jake was about to uncover the first of them. Jake dragged the first chest into the light, its metal scraping loudly across the dusty floor. The padlock clung stubbornly to the latch, but years of rust had weakened it. With a hard strike from the crowbar, the lock snapped, falling to the ground with a dull clang. He hesitated for a moment, staring at the chest as though it might breathe. Then, with a deep breath, he lifted the lid. A cloud of dust escaped, making him cough. Inside, stacked in neat bundles, were yellowed papers, leather-bound ledgers, and rolled maps tied with brittle string. Confused, he pulled out one document. It was a war bond, dated nearly a century ago. Another bundle revealed faded currency notes and envelopes stamped with military insignias. Tucked beneath the papers were heavy parcels wrapped in cloth. Jake unwrapped one, his eyes widening at the glint of antique gold coins spilling into his palm. Ranger barked sharply, circling the chest, as if sensing the gravity of the discovery. Jake's heart raced. What he had thought was worthless junk might actually be priceless history, and he was just beginning to understand the scale of what lay hidden inside the ruined cabin. At first, Jake assumed the papers and coins were interesting relics, maybe worth a few $100s at best. But curiosity pushed him to take several items to a local historian. The man's hands shook as he flipped through the brittle documents, eyes widening with every page. "These aren't just old papers," he whispered. "These are original war bonds, still redeemable. And these coins," he lifted one delicately under the light, the gold shimmering. "These are pre-Civil War era, extremely rare. Collectors would pay fortunes for them." Jake sat frozen, unable to process what he was hearing. The historian scribbled notes quickly, estimating the combined value. "Son, what you found isn't a few $100s. It's closer to 9 million. Jake's jaw dropped. Ranger barked once, as if celebrating the news. The cabin he'd bought for $90 had just changed his life forever. News of the discovery spread faster than wildfire. Within days, reporters flocked to the small town, cameras flashing outside the once-forgotten cabin. Locals who had laughed at Jake for buying the haunted shack now stared in disbelief. Some whispered envy, others shook their heads in awe. At the general store, old-timers marveled at how fate had rewarded the Marine who risked $90 when no one else dared. Children gathered to pet Ranger, calling him the luckiest dog in town. For the first time in years, Jake felt the weight of respect and admiration instead of pity. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. A few muttered about how unfair it was that treasure had been sitting under their noses for decades. But for most, Jake's story became one of hope, a reminder that fortune often hides where the world least expects it. The Marine and his K-9 had become local legends. With his newfound fortune, Jake refused to let greed consume him. The first thing he did was restore the cabin, transforming the rotting shack into a warm, welcoming home. Ranger claimed his spot by the fireplace, finally, at peace. But Jake's gratitude didn't stop there. He donated a portion of the treasure to help struggling veterans, men and women who, like him, had come back from service with little more than memories and scars. For the first time in years, Jake felt hope. He and Ranger weren't just surviving anymore. They were living, building a future worth fighting for.